matrices overview. So your main skills you need with matrices are you need to be able to find the order of a matrix. You need to be able to use your graphics calculator to add, subtract, multiply matrices. Big one is probably you need to be able to solve simultaneous equations, so we have to remember that, and representing connections as a matrix and using the square matrix. So we've got three matrices here. Remember, matrices are named with a capital letter, and the order is the number of rows by number of columns. So there's 2 rows, 1, 2, 3 columns. This is a 2 by 3 matrix. 3 rows, 1, 2, 3, 1 column. This is 3 by 1. This is also 3 by 1. So you need to be able to identify the order of a matrix. Everything you'd want to do, multiplying and adding, you're best off usually doing with a calculator. Now B plus C, it's up to you. You do just add what matches. So 1 plus 1 is 2, negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1, 0 plus 3 is 3. So you can just do the calculation for adding and subtracting, but it's a good idea to be able to do it on the calculator as well. So remember, the matrix menu is here. Second function in matrix lists your matrix, lets you do calculations with it, and edit lets you enter your matrix. So you move across to edit matrix 1. It has the order up here. Now I need a 2 by 3 matrix to put this one in. So you change the order of your matrix, and then it's got the right number of places. Enter that into your calculator. Whoops. Negative 3, use the negative key, not the, sorry, I'll just move that up. Use the negative key, not the minus. So once you've entered that matrix in, you quit out of that. We'll also want matrix B and C. So you enter those in the same way. Into your matrix menu, move across to edit, and move down to 3. Yes, to B, sorry. We need 3 by 1. So once you've got that one, quit out, back into the matrix menu, edit matrix C. So you put all your matrices in, get the order right, enter your numbers. So now those 3 matrices are in. To do maths with them, so to find it with the calculator, B plus C, quit out of it, hop into your matrix menu, and just say that you want B, either by typing 2 or by moving your cursor down and putting enter. B plus C. To get C, you go back in, choose matrix C, enter, it will give you the matrix, and we will write. Multiplication, A times B, you will absolutely want to use your calculator. Hop into the matrix menu and select A. You don't even need your times. Hop into the matrix menu and select B. And there's your answer. If you got it the wrong way around, if you tried to do matrix B times matrix A, it will tell you that we can't do that, because you'll remember we have to be able to match up the rows and columns to be able to multiply. So if you try to do something like adding 2 matrices that won't add, if I tried matrix A plus matrix C, it'll tell you when you can't do it. So if you get this response, it means you've done something wrong. Make sure you can do all that on the calculator. Solving simultaneous equations using matrices. Here's a pair of simultaneous equations. You want to find the value of x and the value of y that works for both of these. You need to make sure the x's are lined up, the y's are lined up, and the equal signs are lined up. So these are already in the correct format. If they weren't, you'd have to rearrange. You make a set of matrices, and the coefficients go in order in your first 2 by 2 matrix. So 2 and 3, 3 and 2. So you make the coefficient matrix. You make the pronumeral matrix, which is just x and y. And you make the answer matrix, which is 8 and 7. This is a matrix equation, and you can solve it to find out x and y. What you do is you label A for the first matrix, x for your pronumeral matrix equals b. So you remember we're always going to have ax equals b or xa equals b, but for solving simultaneous equations it's going to be ax equals b. Now you remember, and I don't have time to go through why, but let me know if you'd like me to, that you need to multiply both sides by the inverse of a to get x on its own. Because a is before x, we put the inverse of a before the two expressions. So you don't have to keep writing this out with your matrix. You just say, look, we've got ax equals b, and I want to solve that. This is your working that you need. I need to multiply on both sides by the inverse of a, and because a is in front, the inverse of a has to go in front. Inverse has the little -1 power, so inverse a times x, and we do the same on this side, inverse a times b. Inverse a times a cancels out, which is the reason we do this, to get x on its own. So I've got x equals inverse a times b. Once you've worked out what multiplication you're going to do to get x, then you need to get a and b into your calculator. Feel free to skip ahead while I do this, it's going to take me a moment, and I can't pause this. Hop into matrices. I want to edit matrix A, and matrix A is a 2 by 2 matrix. Put in these values, and then get matrix B happening. Edit matrix B, I want a 2 by 1 matrix. 8 and 7. So now matrix A and B are in the correct spot. I need to do inverse A times B. And to do that, hop into the matrix menu and get matrix A, and the inverse key is the matrix key, x to the power of -1, but without the second function. So there's that one. To multiply by b, hop into the matrix menu and get matrix B. And this says x equals a matrix of 1, 2. Now to present that as a solution to these equations, you put x at the top here, that will be 1. Y is at the bottom, that's 2. So therefore, x equals 1, y equals 2. If you had time in a test and you were checking, you could then check by substituting 1 and 2 into both of these and checking that you got 8 and 7 respectively. The only other thing we need to be able to do is use a matrix for connections between towns or people. So this matrix shows the number of connections between A, B and C. So there's one road from A to B, one road from B to A. This tells us the number of direct roads. You should remember that squaring it tells me the number of ways that you can get from A to B via another town. So A to C to B. So to find m squared, all you do is once again enter this matrix into your calculator. We might as well, use one we haven't got used before. This is a 3 by 3 matrix. Put in your values. And to get m squared, hop into the matrix menu, choose that matrix, and square it. There it's been squared. And when you write this down, A, B, C, sorry, this is then saying that there are two-way events between, or roads between A and B. So you can possibly go from A to B via C in 2 different ways. So when you square a matrix, you're finding the 2-way connections. If we've got town A, B, C, A to B, A to C has 2 ways. This might be what we saw in this first matrix, and you can see that this makes sense. To go from A to C via one other town, A through B to C, there's only one way to do that. To go from A to B through one other town, I could go to C to B that way, or C to B that way. There's 2 different ways to do it. So that's what this is looking for.